Our next presenter is Alan Foster. Before we bring him out, I want to ask you to just think a minute about crop circles. Perhaps the first thing that might pop into your mind would be, oh, how many are real? How many are fake? Well, look, that's not a really important question, okay? We know that lots and lots and lots of them are real. Here's the big question that I'm interested in finding out. Why do we have crop circles? Huh? I think that's a question that is really worth answering. Alan Foster has traveled to be with us this week from England. And folks, he has some really, really, really interesting answers to that big question. And after his presentation, I think your next big question is going to be, what if he's right? Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Foster.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Good, thanks. Just like to thank Bob and all the organisers for inviting me. Thank you very much. Just before I start, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Alan Foster. I'm a writer, researcher and lecturer on UFOs, crop formations, environmental and spiritual issues. I've been studying this subject for over 35 years, certainly ufology, since I had a UFO encounter in April 1973. Strangely enough, as I was returning from my confirmation into the church. I've worked in various industries, including 15 years in the airline industry, some of that working as a manager of an airline operation that provided the commercial transport for the US military. I was the UK manager and then the Mediterranean manager of the commercial airline travel operation, working with the US military and the US Naval Fleet. And I currently work in aircraft operations at an international airport. Okay, now the title of this talk today is Contact, Awakening and Preparation. Which in a way is a reverse of how things actually should be. But we've already had the contact. And certainly the more you look into this subject, it seems as though this has happened throughout the whole of human history. But certainly since in the modern era, since 1947 with the crash at Roswell, it became very clear that UFOs and ETs exist. Now the awakening process probably began in the 60s, but certainly in the late 80s. With the beginnings of the crop formations, the harmonic convergence, 1987, and then of course spiritual awakening, cosmic spiritual awakening happening, from that time. And I truly now believe we are in that time of preparation, where we have, for those who have the eyes to see, we have a foundation of these various things that are going on, crop formations, ufology, sort of spiritual awakening, and we can use those as a foundation for the things that are coming up, this incredible change that's about to happen. So that basically is the crux of what I want to talk about today, using the crop formations interlinked with UFO interactions and other phenomena to show, or they are certainly showing, that something massive is going on here, and we're about to go through this incredible change. Now, most of you, of course, are familiar with the crop formations. Certainly this week there's been several references to it and movies on it as well. But for those of you that are not that familiar, I'd just like to do a brief introduction and show that the crop formations themselves basically started in the late 80s in the UK. Up to this date now they've been appearing in over 42 different countries around the world, so it's not just the UK. But in this presentation, the formations that I show you come from an area in southern England in a couple of counties of Wiltshire and Hampshire. But you'll see the geometry and the mathematics of them are so sublime, it's amazing. But it wasn't until they initially started as simple circles and circles with rings and things like that, but it wasn't until this formation appeared in 1990 that people around the world started to take a great interest in this. And then also you had then the debunking that came out that this was just created by guys with ropes and planks of wood and things like that. As I say, you'll see some that you'll just know when you look at them you couldn't do it with ropes and planks of wood. But this is when the interest began as people started to look into this. It's also when scientific research began as well in 1990, and I'm sure you're familiar with the BLT group, standing for John Burke, the biophysicist Dr. William Levengood, and Nancy Talbot. They, in the States, were receiving samples from within the crop and control samples outside it. And using various professional scientific consultants like biophysicists, analytical chemists, geologists, geochemists, and mineralogists, the conclusion is that the crop actually goes through a change in its cellular structure. This is in the genuine formations. It's as though there is a superheating of the crop, probably up to about 800 degrees centigrade in a nanosecond, which turns any moisture within the crop into steam, and then the crop becomes malleable and can in effect be downloaded into whatever image, probably in a matter of seconds. You've also got, as with this image here, the crop is often bent at a 90-degree angle at the node or the knuckle of the stem of the crop. And this can be sometimes up to a foot off the ground. You also have an elongation of that node, or even expulsion cavities where the sort of steam blows out of the node, which is acknowledging this superheating process. And you also have magnetic anomalies as well in the genuine formations. Sometimes compasses will spin wildly within them, or batteries will fail as well within cameras inside the formation, but work outside, okay when you get outside the formation. So again, just briefly touching on that, a huge amount of scientific research showing that some of these formations are not made by human means, just by being crushed. There's something going on here. Now, this formation appeared in 1991 at a place called Barbury Castle, which is near Swindon in Wiltshire. At the top, you've got the fort there. Now, the night before this appeared, there were several people doing a night watch up on the fort. And they said during the night they saw this large triangular UFO hovering above the field and a beam of light that shone down. The following day, when they went back to have a look at that particular location, there was this formation there. The lines that you see running across are the tram lines where the tractors spray the crops as they go up and down. Now, they felt that formation represented the fact that there should be a balance between mind, body and spirit, which indeed there should, but that we are sort of out of balance on this world. Now, what is amazing is there's a connection with that, actually with Carlos Diaz. And you all are familiar with the incredibly beautiful plasma craft. That's the picture taken in 1981 by Carlos. But on the 11th of January 1998, he was actually filming one of these craft. You've seen the footage, I'm sure. And he went inside the craft and was taken into a large cavern system. Now, he was at the top of a cavern system looking down, and below him, one of these plasma craft was sort of hovering. And just below, there was a smooth dome of rock on which was an image that was either carved or it was beamed down onto it that looked exactly the same as that crop formation I just showed you. He also was told that actually represents the fact that we should be balanced between our mind and our body and our spirit, and that all things are connected, from something as simple as a blade of grass to the oceans with the whales and dolphins, to solar systems, to galaxies, the universe, and other dimensional realities as well, are all interconnected. And we need to understand, the cause and effect from our actions. So it's a really profound message. But again, linking crop formations to this sort of ufology that's going on. Now, this is a beautiful formation that appeared in June of 1996 at a place called Eastfield in Alton Barnes in Wiltshire. This is a real mecca area where sort of 80% of the formations appear in the world, but also some of the most complex ones as well. This, of course, is known as the double helix of DNA. Now, before we went into that, we were up on a hill which is just near there. On top of the hill is a place called Adam's Grave. We were looking down at the formation. That's where the road runs up the hill. So we then walked down into the formation. And while we're in there, sort of feeling the energy, looking at the formation, the flow of the crop, suddenly the media turned up.